And I'm apparently ripping across. Hello, everybody! Like a wizard who rolled that once on my health pool starting out, I'm squishy and vulnerable. Today we're talking, of course, about our continuing adventures into the Kinks and Cantrips book with our fabulous co-host, as always.
Hello.
Good catch on there, Cheddar. Glad you were fast to respond.
Your audio like cut out for us. That's why.
Oh, goody. Well, that's fantastic to know.
It's back now, but yeah.
Yeah, it cut out so perfectly though, so it was great.
Okay. Well, and our special guest returning for the second episode in a row is our resident expert in this subject, Cross.
I wouldn't necessarily call myself an expert, but here we are.
Congratulations, you have been given the role of expert.
Sure.
And I said before, we are once again back looking at Kinks and Cantrips. Now, if you were here last week or saw the video on YouTube, we talked about the setting of Bundhiem and how it played a positive role into including kink play into role-playing. And today we are going to be looking at some unique mechanics of the book, and also a trip down to the bestiary to see the scary monsters and super freaks we will be fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, as I said last week, we were primarily talking about the positive aspects of the world itself in terms of the kink. Now we are moving on to. I'm sorry, I had to pause for a second because as I was scrolling up, I saw a particular armor set in the weapons and mystic items thing. I'm just going to show this real quick because I think don't worry, you'll see this in a second. So I want to bring this real quick. The Vestments of Shibari.
Hey, yo, okay. Okay, not gonna lie, that legitimately looks cool. Like, I get what it's doing, but it also is like just a neat design.
Kind of reminds me of like an outfit you would see in like lion dance performances, but
yes.
Okay, well, Cross definitely peaked there, but my point is that
sorry,
it's okay. But as we said last week, we primarily focused on the positive world of Bundhiem and how it includes its core mechanics into its setting. Today we're going to be looking at the unique mechanics of Bundhiem. And to start with, I'm going to pass it over to Cross. Cross, you briefly mentioned this to me a little while ago. Can you give me some more details on the unique mechanics of the Bundhiem book?
So the central thing that this book uses as the basis for a lot of its like gameplay is the pleasure and pain mechanics. Both of these are used in a variety of monster abilities, as well as the different subclasses and like full-on brand new class that's in the book. We'll get to that another time. But anyway, the general like flavor of pleasure and pain is that, well, in like kink play and just in general, people will feel different levels of pleasure and pain depending on what exactly you're doing, and just like also in real life, everyone has like their own personal threshold of how much of a sensation they can actually handle before it becomes too much for them. So the pleasure and pain mechanics are represented as a number that a character can have at any given moment for some reason. Different monster abilities and subclass features will use pleasure and pain for different abilities and other mechanics, but the central point, that threshold that I had mentioned, there is a limit to how many pleasure or pain points a creature can have, and that is tied to half of their constitution score rounded down. The example they give is that so a creature with a constitution of 18 will have a maximum pain or pleasure threshold of 9. If they would exceed that threshold, go past that maximum, they gotta make a Constitution saving throw, DC 15, or suffer one of two effects on a failure, depending on what it is. They have, if it's for pain, then they have disadvantage on ability checks and attack rolls until the end of your next turn. They also get a -1 penalty to their wisdom and charisma scores. So that kind of makes sense, is that too much pain is just completely overwhelming to the mind. You can't focus, and just everything that's going on in your head just grows number, as all it is just the overwhelming pain just coursing through your body. That your charisma and wisdom do reset after a minute of not getting any pain. So yeah, hopefully this is not happening in a combat scenario, or if it is, then you're not. It's not happening too often, so that way you can
Yeah.
calm yourself down afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. For pleasure, getting too much of that and failing the saving throw means that you are stunned for your next turn, and you lose half of your pleasure points. So yeah, I think we can imagine what is happening to the character when they reach their maximum pleasure. Yeah, so
Well, it's definitely ambivalent, but let's be fair here. We, as an adult, we are very much assuming that they are riding the Pleasure Express down to Climax Town, if you get my meaning. But which I am not speaking of the actual event, so I'm not breaking any TOSs. But let's be fair here. That's most likely what's happening. The one I'm actually more interested in is the pain situation, because
yeah.
as traditional D&D players, a lot of people are probably already assuming, oh, pain is tied into like health points, as we already know. As we know, we're conditioned to imagine damage as pain, and just the various types of pain. This is taking pain in a different section, and it doesn't tie it into damage either. At least not that we're aware of. But it sounds like it's more of a status effect. So
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to balance it. I do wonder though if a DM could rig it so that pain could also be used outside of the mechanic of Bundhiem, because you could obviously retrofit it to work in D&D simply by having it be like lingering scars or something if you want to play a more extreme RPG game. But here it definitely
I don't doubt that deep within it it's probably planned for that, because pain in and of itself, especially for kink, can be seen as a bonus, can be seen as a good thing. And from what I've looked into, pain itself does have some methods later on in the subclasses that can be of use to those particular subclasses, because it works into that particular kink.
So we'll be talking about the classes in the book as in our final part, which will be next week. This week we're simply focusing on going to be the core mechanics. So Chitter, in that regard, how do you feel like they could incorporate this into just as a standard boss fight mechanic?
Actually, if you go down a page, it brings up something called escape encounters, which it kind of leads into that, where basically, whether you're being trapped by an actual trap, a monster, or an individual with devious intent, as it says, it's very much a case where you could have a helpless encounter where you need someone to help you, or you got split from the party because you did the one thing you're never supposed to, and you decide to go off alone. Or it could be a hopeful situation where it's not as bad, you're not as fucked, but you still have the potential of being fucked in not the fun way. And
I mean,
as you can
unless you're
see,
into that.
yeah. And as you can
Go ahead.
My apologies.
I was
As you
laughing.
can
Sorry.
see, as you can see with the helpless and hopeful stat blocks, pain and pleasure tend to be lower in the helpless situations, but the damage is, well, also less. It's very much a case of the adrenaline kicking in. And it's on surviving and enduring the predicament, whereas the hopeful situation can kind of lend itself more to the kinked side of it being there. Sure, there's more damage involved, but there's also more pain and pleasure.
Is there any chance you could give me like some kind of, let's say hypothetically speaking, I get it, but I don't understand it in practice. Can you give me a scenario?
Oh, let's see here. Well, we may want to talk about it eventually, but let's say that you get separated from your party. Good job. You have done it. You have done the one thing that you should not do in any way, shape, or form. You are caught by a group of cultists devoted to the sublime slithering, which is basically the living embodiment of tentacles. And you have been bound in leather harnesses with an escape DC roughly about 18 and left around a deep pit awaiting the arrival of the tendrils to do tendril things. So your rescuers, your party that are going to cuss you out afterwards, are all trying to first learn about the danger and then also help you while you are busy screaming your lungs out. and the thing is that there can be other things involved with it, like facing the forceful personality, charisma saving throws, failure results in being charmed, yada yada yada. That's not relevant for this. The thing is that any captives that are eventually grasped by a tentacle, they're going to have a nice intimate experience with them, but it's not so much that you have any ability to enjoy the situation, because even though you could potentially get some pain and pleasure like the chart says, you also are absolutely terrified and scared and not consenting to this in any way, shape, or form. And you realize that should this go to its inevitable climax, you're not walking away from this at all. And that's not great. So that's kind of where the fear of the situation takes over more so than the actual kink of the situation. That would be one where you're dangling over a pit and you're in a lot of trouble. And yes, you can experience pleasure or pain that feels nice, but that's really not your focus.
Yeah, it's more like trying to escape.
An example of what would be like a hopeful escape, where you're kind of like more focused on the kink and whatnot, is kind of where the threat, and I use that with quotations, is kind of less of an issue. So basically, for example, let's say a roving band of kobolds, which worship a giant purple worm, captured the party and hogtied them spread. The danger isn't known to the party. But the one thing you do know is that, god damn, they're good at tying knots. So, one possible solution could be to maneuver closer to each other, so you can tie each other's knots. You could also spend time wriggling down the tunnel away from the incoming worm, which increases the DC for untying the knots, as it's hard to, untie knots and moved. But this way, if the worm or the kobolds gives you pleasure or pain, you're not so much concerned about the danger You're more concerned about the fact that you're spread eagle and tied up and probably gagged. The focus is more based on the kink play aspect of it, less so the danger, because they're, to be quite frank, it's not mortal danger. It's just, oh fuck, I'm not going to be walking for a week if we finish.
Okay, I guess that probably explains that question. All right, so back to Cross. Cross, you said you wanted to mention some of the ways that we could incorporate the like, you know more about the pleasure and pain system than I do. So I'm gonna let you basically even like an open forum. I want to know, like, how have you used the system before, or how did you come across it, or just give me a little bit more of the background when it comes to like how the system is implemented into games you've probably looked at or have thought about running.
So I haven't been able to use it myself. I've done a lot of brainstorming of ideas for character concepts and adventures with Chitter. We've just bounced ideas back and forth. And I'll explain like character ideas next time. But the as far as like actually using it, so there is a lot of like what was just being explained about the different escape scenarios. So that can incorporate the pleasure and pain just to give different like uh, a growing sense of urgency to a scenario. So instead of just like the classic D&D scenario of, oh well, the party got split by a portcullis and now there's a gelatinous cube going to uh, attack the one helpless member, and oh no, you gotta save them fast. Yeah, you can do that again, but now it's just, oh well, it's not just a gelatinous cube, it's a cubeling. So, oh well, then now it's a slime person. So that same setup, same generic thing, but now it's gotten its own new twist on it. So you can have the same like beats as a normal D&D game. You're just throwing it for a new loop with this system. It also shows up in different monsters that are used. I just mentioned cubelings, but as we're going to see in a little bit, there's a whole bunch of different creatures in the bestiary that utilize pain and pleasure, not just from the base mechanics, but also to do other effects with them. So it's just this ongoing resource that both the party and the enemies use back and forth to get rather interesting effects happening in your roleplay. You know, like a normal kink scenario. So yeah.
So what kind of side effects could you said interesting side effects? What kind of side effects are we talking here?
So I think this is like a bit of a segue into the monsters that we wanted to talk about. Because I'm looking at one creature I wanted to talk about, and the way it uses the pleasure system. It kind of kicks it up to 11. So the creature I'm looking at is the Angel of the Radiant Chain.
All right, let me see if I can pull it up. Agent of the Agent of the Maven. Ah, here we go. Found it right here. All right.
Also, your model looks at it.
I know, I realized. Hang on one sec. I was using the search feature. There we go. Okay, Angel of the Radiant Chain.
Yes. So the overall theme of this creature, it's an angel of the god Lencanos. We talked about gods a bit last time.
We did.
Lencanos, yes. Lencanos was the god who basically sealed all the gods, both benefic and malitic, away from the world, just to let the mortal realms live freely. That's kind of Lencanos' like divine domain, being free to feel and be yourself, but after being released from a set of bondage in some form. and his angels represent that with its main gimmick, the chastening aura. It's there in the top right of the stat block. So it's real quick. It says when a creature would gain pleasure within 30 feet of the angel gains an equal amount of chastity points instead. An angel can toggle this on or off at the start of its turn. So already that's an interesting take on this, because people who are playing in a Bundhiem campaign are most likely using one of the subclasses which utilize pain or pleasure in some way. So those who are using pleasure are now like at a big disadvantage if they're facing off against this, because now now one of my main resources is just completely cut off until the angel decides to throw all of that chastity back at someone with its overwhelming release action. So it basically takes all of the pleasure points it's been holding on to with its aura and puts them all onto a single creature within 5 feet of it.
Wait, hold on.
And-
So hold on. This is an edging angel?
Yes.
Oh dear
Basically.
God.
Yes. Yes. So, I mean,
Yes.
it's right there. It's right there in the name of overwhelming release. So it is taking all of that and putting it all onto one person.
Oh boy,
Sure.
that's a unique.
Because think about it, the normal D&D party size is anywhere between 4 and 6. So on average 5. If you have 5 different characters who are all trying to increase their pleasure for some kind of effect with their subclass, the angel just goes on to all of that and is also adding on pleasure with its mace attack, and then just goes up to someone and goes, you. And there's no saving throw to resist getting all of that pleasure with overwhelming release. You just have it. You can only have to now make the repeated Constitution saving throw on your turn with DC equal to your pleasure total. It also removes the cap of the maximum amount of pleasure a character could have. So normally, like normally, since the max score of Constitution you can have is 20, the max pleasure a character could have is 10. This angel goes, nah. I have taken all this. Now your pleasure is like 15 or like 20. And if you can't make those Constitution saves, you're stunned, like how we discussed before. So that's happening every turn.
And doesn't pleasure if you go above and beyond your limit give like a disadvantage to the saves, or is it just the checks?
I did not see that in the chapter when I was reading it, so I'm going to assume probably not. But it could be a house rule.
It could be a house rule. No, I think it's just that it just gives you stunned. But also, normally with pleasure, when you fail the save, you lose half your pleasure. With overwhelming release, you don't. You're still stuck at that. Like, it's kept you. I'm gonna say it. It says there in the text. It's kept you pent up for so long, and then it's just like, oh, now all this that's been denied, you're gonna feel that for upwards of an hour straight. That's how long the effect lasts, unless someone uses Greater Restoration. So, yeah, it is incredible. That completely takes one person out of the fight if they can't use their if they can't make those saves.
So yeah, there's no other way to describe it. This is clearly the edging angel. My next question then is could, in theory, this be used to shut down a party then? Because from the way you're describing it, it sounds like they could build up so much pleasure and then release it all on one person. They could never unescape it, possibly. Like, if you were using this on a wizard or, like, maybe a spellcaster, they're not going to have a high constitution. They're probably going to be stuck there for at least the full 10 rounds. Maybe more. And then, on top of that, you have that infected to the rest of the group. They're stunned there, and then you pretty much just guarantee that we're not that for at least for an hour they're gonna be like the end of a hentai magazine basically, where they're just like with their mouth drooling out and they can't focus, they can't look at anything. I find that kind of
though.
See,
Go ahead.
if I may, this kind of reminds me a little bit of Pokemon, actually.
If I hear the word Vaporeon come out of your mouth, we're ending the show now.
God damn it. I was about to see where Chitter's coming from.
See, here's the thing. It's actually not about that. It's actually very reminiscent of the very first gym that you ever fight in Kanto.
You mean Brock?
Yeah.
I see where you're going. Go ahead.
Because the thing is that he says right up what his game plan is. Same with the Angel of the Radiant Chain. It would obviously talk about chastity and the release. But here's the thing. When you go to fight it, the Onyx in question has a very particular move that's very famous. Bide. A lot of people think, well, why would you put a bide on an Onyx? Because if you're not ready for it and you keep hitting it over and over and over again, it's going to come back with all the damage you gave it and smack you with it all at once. And it's teaching you to play around that and minimize, like, take advantage of the situation. Like, for example, the Angel of the Radiant Chain. If you're stuck in a fight with it, you want to cause pain. You want to cause actual damage. You do not want to cause pleasure. You want to make it so that the angel can't get at you for your pleasure, because it says within 30 feet of the angel. So it's all about planning around it. This is an angel who is basically telling the party, you cannot swarm me. You have to plan around me. Because when you get to like 11, a party's feeling pretty damn confident about themselves. So if they all go charging in, then you better fucking believe that you're going to look like the end of a hentai magazine, all of you, because you didn't respect the challenge in front of you.
No, I think that's a good way to sum it up. Oh god, I'm gonna probably regret this, but I feel like we would be doing a disservice if we didn't, at the very okay. Let me ask you two a question, and feel free to say that we don't have to answer this question. I just want to propose it to you. If you were to compare this to the actual kink of edging, do you think the creator of the book did a good job of beastifying it, making it into an enemy that legitimately could be a threat? I think it did.
Yes. Yes.
Because as someone who's not really familiar with the term edging, and I mean, I know what it is, obviously. It's not like I was the one that pointed it out. I know what it is. I don't get the understanding behind someone who would want it to have happen. I do think that if someone were to have that and see an enemy like this, they would definitely, at the very least, they would probably see like a good connection to it. And I think that's a good way of looking at some of these monsters, because we're going to be looking at monsters that, if I can be honest, they're going to represent a lot of what some people would consider out there kinds of fringe. Fringe kinks, and we want to make sure that at least for me, if I'm talking about a topic, I want to look at it with every detail. So that's my honest take on it. And I think for this one, it definitely matches.
And for some, oh, sorry, go right ahead.
And I said, in cross degrees, I'm just going to pass over to you, Chitter.
Yeah. I definitely think that they nailed it. I definitely find it fascinating that they decided to actually incorporate two kinks into this, and it being chastity, which is it's so you wouldn't think about like edging in terms of chastity normally, but it's so good and it's so easily incorporated into that kink because chastity is all about restricting yourself. So experiencing all that pleasure at once after holding yourself back, that is the essence of chastity and also, well, edging itself.
Mm. There's like a Venn diagram between the two. And this
Yeah.
is leaning more on the chastity side of that. It's pure. It is total denial of pleasure until it says so. But yeah,
Which leads into that edging bit of basically,
yeah,
I'm in control of how you feel right now, and you're not allowed to finish until I say so, and you're fucked when I say so.
Yeah, it's probably the best
So-
way to describe it.
I genuinely think that it is a very, very potent monster and one that DMs would have to recognize is to be respected. Not because of like its sheer overall challenge rating, but because parties that are going up to face it need to learn to respect that strategy is starting to come into play.
right. Yeah, this is like the equivalent of like in Kingdom Hearts 2 fighting Demix, who completely shuts down the normal hack and slash mentality of most players. That's why everyone remembers him as like a pure wall of a boss, because he actually just puts up straight walls if you try to rush him down. So it's at that point where it's like about halfway through the game, you know, challenge rating 11. You're halfway through like the levels 1 through 20, where the game is telling you, hey, you got to start being ready for different kinds of mechanics and being able to approach different problems in a different way. So this is just a nice way to not only represent that particular kink, but it's also just great game design.
Yeah. And if I may, this is kind of the game going, you can no longer take the inexperienced straight man approach of one tool solves everything.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's pretty much no other way we could sum it up. That part is 100% the case. Not to mention, if we look at this thing, also, I find it interesting that it's basically just it's a one-trick pony in terms of what it can do, but I think it kind of adds to its
one trick.
Yeah, I know. I was about to say, like, I mean, really, there's no other way to describe it. It's pretty much just pretty much one trick. All right, so that was the Angel of the Radiant Chain. I think, as always, Cross, if you've seen our other episodes, we rate all of our monsters on the flump scale. How many flumps do you give this?
More flumps being good, I assume.
Yes, obviously more flumps being good. There are no 5 out of 5 flumps, for that is only honored to one monster, and that is the flump itself.
Obviously, that makes sense. Well then 4 out of 5. Like this is beautiful game design, beautiful flavor. It is a nice way to just take everything that has been happening in a game of this so far and just hit you with everything all at once. So yeah, I love it.
So, so we're gonna move on to Cross's second suggestion from the book for DMs who want to look at unique ideas that also use the plane and pleasure mechanic. Cross?
Yeah.
I'm gonna need you to explain it before I reveal the page, because I'm gonna probably need to.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Gonna say,
you know what? Let's risk it. Let's risk it for the biscuit as long as we keep it above the waist.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, just don't go to the bottom half of the page.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. We might get flooded because there's side. You know what? Fuck it. We'll take the gamble. If we got away last week, we got away this week. All right.
Mhm.
So, Cross, why don't you go ahead and describe this other monster?
So this one doesn't really use that much. Yeah, just at a quick glance, it doesn't really use pain and pleasure. Not I'm looking at it, but this monster is an example of like a new twist on a classic D&D idea. I mentioned one example of this with the Cubeling before, being a twist on the gelatinous cube. This is a twist on the classic D&D monster of the Mimic. I actually saw a comic like this once, where instead of the Mimic being sitting there being a treasure chest or some kind of object to draw in an adventurer, this time it takes the form of some helpless person and plays on an adventurer's desire to be a hero, trying to help people. This person's in danger. I gotta save them, right? I gotta go save them. So then you go to save them, and then suddenly their whole body shifts, and now they're holding onto you tight and biting down on onto your neck. This is the booby trap.
I know. And by the way, we can't show the full artwork, obviously, because if we go any farther, we might be breaking TOS shape. But essentially, I'm going to paint a picture for you guys who are just listening in on this. The booby trap is a scantily clad female elf who's not wearing anything besides a collar, with a open mouth slit coming out of her back, with razor sharp teeth, green goo, and tendrils sticking out of it. So, a mimic, basically. But about that, Cross, this actually feels more like an oobleck than a mimic, but it does say mimic in the description. Can you give us some more details as to what the booby trap is? Why is it more like a mimic?
Because like I was saying before, it's the same idea of this is something that hides in. It hides in plain sight in places that it knows adventurers are going to be. Dungeons, caves, or other perilous areas. Where a normal mimic will be a treasure chest, some kind of glowing gem, or something that'll entice the greed of somebody who wants to come and get it because, ooh, treasure, nice. I'm gonna score. It is great. And then surprise, it's a monster. And now it's attacking you. The booby trap does the same thing. It's just it's instead taking the place of a person. It's like, oh, I want to help this person. Or in the case of the picture here, hey, this person's kind of hot. Let me see if I can score. But then it goes, surprise, now it's a monster. Now it's trying to kill you. So it's the same approach. It's just it's a different presentation of that same classic idea. And looking at the stat block, when you look at like what it does, it's the same stuff as what a normal mimic does. It's just a bit more damaging and has a slight twist on it. That's why it's got a challenge rating of 3. So it's pretty beefy, but it's the same idea. It's still a shape changer. It'll still try to grapple you and hold you while it bites you. Yeah, so it's just the same setup as a mimic, but they've retooled it, adjusted some of the numbers, and presented it with a new set of flavor to make it fit the setting, and it's ingenious. It's like, oh, of course, in the kink world, you're gonna the mimics are gonna be kinky too. So there you go. This is how they are.
Yes, exactly. And here's the other thing I think is kind of interesting about this. We talked about the gelatinous cube and the mimic and everything in a previous episode, but the main thing we use is that these work more as traps than actual monsters, because you can basically have them as inanimate objects that basically can serve as a small roadblock for the party. The thing I actually want to talk about this myself, the booby trap, because look, let me just explain this real quick why I wanted to pick this one. It's kind of funny because I think it might, so just bear with me. As you know, there is a traditionally a joke running in the D&D campaign or that we play, and that is that the bard is always horny. And I know it, you know it, the whole everyone knows this. Everyone knows this because bards are always trying to seduce everything that runs by. They're always trying to seduce the dragon or the djinn or the giant or whatever. And I wanted a monster, and frankly speaking, I want to punish the bard players for doing that. I've always wanted to do that. If a bard player tries to seduce an enemy of mine, I want to punish them. I want to make the DC like incredibly high, and then somehow just watch as they somehow manage to pass it and then cry because that's just how my luck is as a DM. This was the one monster I was like, yes, I can use this to get those horny bards. So this feels, because it literally is a booby trap, and I think and it is also a booby trap. It is a trap that is designed to trick easily successful people. But it's funny because when you really think about it, it's, how do I put this delicately? It's basically saying, okay, I know this is probably not going to go well, but everyone's had that thought where they're going to find the big bad guy. They're like going to convert him into friendship or whatever, and I don't like that. So I do think this is a fun, if not a bit of a pun way of winning the victory on that one. So
yeah, in regards of your of the whole horny bard being horny and doing horny things. Well, in this setting, this is the setting where you can really like challenge that kind of player if they're going to be like that and fall into that stereotype. Because in Bundhiem, everyone's horny. So if your approach is just, oh, I'm a horny bard, well, everyone's horny. What makes you special? Then they gotta start thinking of stuff just beyond what it is of just, oh, I'm just gonna be all lewd and vulgar and stuff. No, you gotta give more beyond that. So yeah,
because that's you are essentially beginner material then for everyone.
Yeah, and then with the different monsters here, if people in normal games are like, oh, I'm trying to seduce this thing, it's literally a dragon. It's not going to be I can roll for it. I got expertise in persuasion. No, well, in here, yeah, okay, it is into you, and that's the problem. That's the challenge. It's into you, and it wants to do its thing.
But
congratulations, you succeeded. Now here comes the problem.
Let's see if I can actually scroll down and take a look at this without going too far. Obviously, I don't want to reveal. This is the worst part about having the artwork on here, is because it's actually really funny artwork. You know what? No one's gonna watch this. We're gonna risk it. We're gonna risk it. There's some butts, okay, folks. We got butts on screen.
Yay, my favorite.
Exactly. But like, look, it grapple. This is what I was describing about. If you had look at this guy. He's clearly fucking, yeah. He's stoned out of his mind for one thing, but clearly, yeah, he doesn't know what he's doing.
You know what's really funny about that guy? Yeah, you see, it looks like he's in like some sort of trance or something. But then you read the stat block, the booby trap doesn't have that kind of ability. It just grabs you and bites you. So it's like, what the hell happened to this guy where he's in like that kind of daze? I don't get it.
I think what happened was he had one too many at the bar, and the booby trap hit on him. He thought this is gonna work out, and then he got eaten, and not the fun eaten. He just got eaten.
This feels very much like the kind of monster who would be against like as we were talking about with the whole thing of like, oh, what makes you special in being lewd. This feels like the monster that is designed to basically
oh be like, no, June, why are you coming in now?
Wait, what happened?
We got June, our good friend, decided to pop in, say hi, and
hi, welcome to the fun show.
Okay, well, we're just gonna keep on coming on. So we're talking about the booby trap. This is the booby trap.
Yay.
This is kinky D&D.
By all means, continue.
I don't-
Daphne.
Oh god, this is gonna be. I don't care if this video doesn't get a lot of views. At this point, we're just laughing at one another at this point. So we're just gonna.
I love it.
We're leaving it in.
I just gotta say,
you got double digits for the first time in a while, dude.
hilarious. You show the art, viewership skyrockets.
I showed the butt. I have blown the horn of Gondor. Everyone arrive.
There you go.
Okay.
Congratulations, you did it.
So back to the booby trap. Yeah, no, like Cross, you were saying that oh yeah, everyone. You were saying like this pretty much just it bites you, it does damage. It's not really a super threatening enemy, but it does have that element of surprise. That's the key part.
Right, and it can do some solid damage. Like if it lands its bite, that's upwards of 2d8 plus 3 damage on a single attack. Yeah, it's challenge rating 3. So I guess level 3 party, that's a good amount of damage. That can bring someone down if it's one of the not tanky characters going after it. Like the rogue decides to go ahead because, oh, okay, I can get around the little trap to go save this person, and then now they're being, oh, that just hit me.
What?
Oh God.
What did?
No, imagine this scenario. It's not just, oh, there's this helpless person. What makes them helpless? Not just that they're tied up. What if they're tied up in the middle of some precarious scenario, across some traps in a room, swinging spikes or something? Okay, the rogue goes ahead because, oh, okay, I'm nimble. I can navigate through traps and stuff, and I can go and I can pick the locks that are on the manacles holding this person. I can get them out. Then the booby trap attacks. Now the rest of the party is on the other side of the room, past all the traps, and has to go, oh no, we gotta go save our friend. Now the entire party has to navigate the traps.
And you're into that hopeful situation that was mentioned earlier, where yes, the rogue is probably going to get some pleasure with it, but they're also going to get a stern talking to.
Holy shit, dude! This is incredible design.
This is very much a creature who is teaching the DM how to run. You said before, Garson, you weren't sure how to run those hopeful encounters.
I did say that, and I can definitely say that now. It definitely seems like we have an explanation.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's incredible.
Okay. So with this
that is very genius.
So with this newfound epiphany about the booby trap, how would you rate this on our flumpometer?
I mean, what same as before. 4
flumps.
out of 5.
Perfect. So,
yeah, because last time I would have before I would have said like 3 is like, it's good, it's a neat little twist. But now with that idea of how to actually use it, amazing, incredible.
So real quick, since June did raid into us, and okay, apparently the book is having a small seizure. Hang on one second. All right. So anyway, since June did join us, and we just went over Cross's selections. Does anyone mind if I go next? Because June's here, and I want to showcase a particular one I was just talking about before we started.
No, go right ahead.
All right. So, as you all know, with Kinks and Cantrips, most of the monsters are based on kinky aspects, and I wanted to dive into one that I think a lot of people they don't mention, but a lot of people are thinking about it, especially if you've been on the internet and you've been on a hentai site before. As you know, we're going to talk about the one, the only, the capital T tag on hentai sites, the tentacle hentai. And
here we go.
And we're going to be talking about it with the Ero Squid.
See, hooray. This thing's just fucking terrifying.
All right. So here's the thing. I don't know much about the Ero Squid. I did a lot of the research on my other monster beforehand. I looked at this one, and this was like an interesting one, but I don't know why it's any different from the why it's any different from like a normal giant kraken, because it clearly feels like this is based on a giant kraken. And then I realized, and then I looked in the artwork.
Yeah.
And then I looked at the artwork at the top, and we're gonna zoom in here so you can see what I'm talking about, right? Stairs and Kraken. Don't look at me. This is your cousin Frank. So let's take a look at that. Guys, I know we probably can't effectively confirm, but are we all looking at the same thing with the squid? Please.
It's got a thing. It's got a yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we recognize that shape.
Okay. So just so we're all in agreement then. That is a that is a room that is
Giving deviant arts.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to take. I want to handle this with the maturity that this topic does involve, and I am trying.
No, it's fine.
I know.
Like,
Just also, you also recognize that this is basically, for lack of a better word, the Vor Squid.
It's the Vor Squid? I didn't know it was the Vor Squid.
I mean,
I
go and look
thought
what
it
it does, DM.
I thought it was the tentacle squid.
Oh, it's both. It's both.
Oh no.
That's great. That's the great part.
And you see,
Orchid.
it's funny that you guys mentioned the Kraken, because the Kraken is all like about hitting it with its tentacles and lightning storm and whatnot. And don't get me wrong, it has a bite, it has a tentacle, but
It's definitely hitting someone with its tentacle, that's for sure. Hitting something with its tentacle.
damn right. But also, as it says, it has a penchant for ensnaring its prey before swallowing them whole. Once engulfed, creatures are trapped within the head, held fast by half-tongue, half-tentacle pseudopods. These appendages lap at the ensnared meal, slowly dissolving them in a maelstrom of tentacular activity. Though pleasurable, again, getting into that helpless situation, in short order, the creature is reduced to bone from these ministrations. Thus clean, the squid consumes the bones to fuel its massive physique while it searches for its next meal. This is the classic example of a bad end enemy.
Yes.
Would that be?
Yes, I think
Would
that's.
that be?
I think that is a very fair assumption to say about this particular enemy. This is a very bad end, unless you are. Well, yeah, no, I mean, yeah.
Because here's the thing.
It's literally death. So
yeah, and also there's an ability in there that you probably didn't notice, and that makes it scary if your party member gets swallowed and leaves, and it will leave you very, very concerned. Any creature swallowed by the Ero Squid with 0 hit points at the beginning of the squid's turn dies and is rendered to bone by the many tongues inside of it. If the squid finishes a long rest with the bones inside of it, they are dissolved and the squid has 50 temporary HP for the next week.
Oh no, and this thing's already a fucking tank.
So
172 plus 50, that's nothing to sneeze at.
So basically, if a party member gets swallowed up into that thing, you're probably thinking as a team, yeah, we're gonna go and avenge our friend. Good fucking luck with that. You already had trouble on it with base form. Now try to go with it actually having woken up properly.
I mean, we're talking about this, and this is the Kinky D&D's stream. This is literally the plot of Delicious in Dungeon.
Yeah, pretty much.
This is literally the plot.
Okay, so not only that, it also has, it actually has a resistance to the pain and pleasure mechanic we talked about. Thick Hide says that if you gain any amount of pain or pleasure, it gains 1 fewer pain or pleasure to a minimum of 1. So it's not immune to it, but when we tackle the classes next week, and I think that's going to probably like complete everything full circle by explaining how that mechanic fully works, I think that that's going to be something that could potentially give it not only a very threatening, end result, but it also could be something like we were not prepared to fight this thing, and now we are at a major disadvantage.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And this monster, as someone who has some experience along this line, this brings to mind, and I respect the book for doing this. This brings a niche kink that not a lot of people think about. And again, we were all joking like, haha, vor and whatnot. But this brings it to the example of the difference between soft and hard vor.
Ah, the variations.
Where soft is basically just you're inside of them, and it's nice and safe, maybe even comforting, etc. Hard vor is this, where the appeal is the terror of being consumed.
You can clearly tell that I was not prepared to talk about this then, because I thought it was okay. So that actually makes a lot more sense based on what the mechanics are. Can I level with you guys and describe why I wanted to talk about this?
Go
Go
right
for it,
ahead.
yeah.
Okay. When I originally saw this monster, I thought of it more like a princess guarding monster. So, like, obviously, so like for
okay.
so for example, if you've played Dungeons and Dragons, there's a good chance you've had the classic quest line: "Go rescue princess. She's in another tower." Big thing guards it. You have to kill it to get through and rescue her. I thought that this was like an underwater version of that, where the king would be like, "My daughter Penelope was out at the beach one day, was eaten by a squid," and then you find out that she's been trapped in the tentacles zone for about 2 weeks, and you rescue her, and she basically did not want to leave because she turned out she really liked it. That kind of made it like a reverse prison thing where it moves, it clearly keeps something alive, it clearly is trying to work as a way of keeping an enemy or like an important person protected, and then I find out it eats someone. So
Here's the
So-
thing,
Go ahead.
if I may.
Mhm.
That actually brought a really interesting idea to mind. And allow me to just tweak that idea a little bit and give you an example that could be rather interesting.
I know where you're going with this, Chitter. I think we had the same idea. Go ahead.
oh no.
You said, "Oh, the princess trapped there, and you need to go save her," but it turns out for whatever reason they have the connection and whatnot. Imagine a journey starts out with a princess getting captured by one of these, but she's still alive days, weeks later, when these things are known to consume them within hours. What's going on? What is our princess okay? Is this a trap? What is happening? It's so unnatural.
I think and you're right, it is unnatural. But the thing about it is, and this is kind of like the interesting thing about it, even if this wasn't in the book, like this feels like a standard D&D monster.
Yeah.
But they change one aspect of it, and now you have something that's not only unique, but it represents a type of kink that is not really explored outside of RP, I would assume. That honestly is kind of amazing, but like, yeah, just take that topic, and now you have if you did a story like that, I guarantee you the entire party would either try to kill it, and they wouldn't realize what they were doing if they had no context for the story, or
Right.
by the time they did eventually get it, they were able to put it to pieces together, and that still is a fun twist on it. So I really like the concept of that itself. But you're right. like having something like this eat you and then keeping you alive inside the tentacle dome for weeks on end. I think I would rather have it be that type of monster than have it be the traditional eating of someone. Not to dispute it, but just because I think it's like a more useful, like a more well-rounded idea.
I was going to add on to that. Look, you as someone thinking like a DM just got inspired by that idea. Looking at it, there's nothing that says you can't retool this to be that kind of encounter or that kind of quest. You can go right ahead and make your own version of the Ero Squid that does that. That's what makes this kind of creature interesting. Like, it can't. Your version of Bundhiem can be that. Oh yeah, this is what Ero Squids do. Like, yeah, they feed on people, but you could say that they like feed on the like pleasure that's released by the people that it's got trapped in its head. So
you can turn it from hard 4 to soft 4 in an instant.
And
there you go.
And as we always say on this show, we are not trying to dictate how you should have a character or how you should have fun. Clearly, we know that you are going to play a character or a creature or even a story your own way. But from our perspective, well, my perspective anyway, because it's the only one I can truly talk about, I like my version of it a little bit better. Maybe it's a little biased, but that's just my take on it.
Go for it.
I know, exactly. And I'm going to. Like, if I ever run this thing, which I don't know how I could, but I would figure out some way to include the super squid. I also just love the design of this thing. Like, blood red is such a cool color scheme.
It's so cool. But yeah, there you go. That's the beauty of D&D. You don't necessarily need to stick super hard to what the designers have. Homebrew and house rules are a common thing. So yeah, you run it however you want to.
Exactly. So with that being said, I'm going to give this Ero Squid in book only because that's how I rate my monsters. I'm going to give it 3 out of 5 flumps, and then I will give it 4 out of 5 flumps for my version because I'm a narcissist who needs to have constant validation of all my ideas regardless of how silly they are. Just kidding. I actually think it's just, I like that little twist on it, and that's going to be really good later. Which brings me to my next monster I wanted to talk about. So as we know, there is one thing that we always have to keep an eye out for in this world, and that is we have to protect our world because we live in an ever-changing society. And those societies, oftentimes we have to protect ourselves from some outside threats. Namely, of course, climate change, the rise of prices of inflation, and of course, the most dangerous of all, leather daddies. So we're going to be talking about the leather dragon.
God,
the leatheriest, the leather daddy to end all leather daddies.
Why is it glossy?
Because that's the artwork they want with. And
also just really quickly, that is the quote unquote ancient version of it. There's the antiquated and then there's the glossy.
Okay. so let me get this straight. As more powerful as it gets, the newer the leather is.
Yes.
Seems like it.
That doesn't make any sense, but let's move on there and let's just talk about the good old leather daddy dragon. So first and foremost, let's obviously just mention, as a leather dragon, they are going to have different ages, and different as older the dragon gets, the more powerful they do. This is eventually Bundhiem's unique version of the dragon itself. So we don't need to go into too much detail as to what a dragon does. I want to go over some of the more unique mechanics of this particular dragon, including but not limited to the fact that it has an ability called Cuffs. Oh my god, I didn't read this until right now. Cuff Storm.
Yes, the leather cuffs. I love the Garson is learning a lot today.
Wow. Okay. Seductive smell. Padded tail. Oh god, I did not read this. I did not read this at all.
Good job, Catboy.
Yeah, no, like, okay, so, but we're obviously just gonna be talking about the dragons themselves, but like, okay, guys, I'm at a loss here, because from my perspective, the dragons I'm more used to are the chromatic dragons and the monochromatic dragons. Obviously, the ones that have different elements. Leather is
Mm-hmm.
definitely outside of my realm of knowledge when it comes to what the dragon's domain could be. Plus, if I'm being honest, I'm now just thinking about what the horde would be for this thing, which I think is a little bit more interesting the more I think about it. So
I mean, we can talk about that when we look at like items and stuff next time along
oh
with
yeah,
classes.
no, we definitely are. But let's just go over each ability, each unique ability real quick. Let's start with the cuff storm, because that one's probably what I think it is. The dragon unleashes a fury of semi-sentient leather cuffs. Fucking do it. That will tap to latch onto creatures. Yeah, will tap to latch onto creatures nearby. And so basically, if you are within 30 feet of the dragon, you have to succeed on a DC 8 saving throw, which is very high. That's a very high DC to pass for certain classes. And you'll be
challenge 14.
True. And if you fail, you'll be basically restrained to the nearest floor or wall space until the cuffs are then. Oh, and then you're spread eagle.
Hey.
All right. I'm tapping out. Chitter, passing the baton over to you. Go ahead. I clearly am not smart.
Oh, man.
I'm clearly not smart enough. I'm clearly not knowledgeable enough. I clearly do not have enough willpower. I'm tapping out. I'm taking the knee. I'm passing it over. And I will give my comments once I have more knowledge. Please, somewhat.
I mean, this isn't the that like out there really. Okay, so like the visual is definitely out there, but like from a game design perspective, so Cuff Storm is this dragon's version of its breath weapon. It's just instead of damage, it's a status effect. We talked about status effects before. In this kind of setting, it's just a restrained status effect, and you can break out with just a strength save if you can if you don't dodge with the dex save before. So you have multiple ways to get out of this. And then aside from that, it has pretty standard dragon like attacks. It has claws, it has its bites, it has a tail attack. And then you look at his legendary actions, it does detecting, it does its tail, and it does a wing attack. This is very straightforward dragon stuff. It's just it's coded in a certain lewd material, if you will.
Yeah. And here's the thing, and I'm just gonna come out and say this, is that this dragon absolutely is going to try to basically beat the crap out of you if you try to attack it. But also, what makes it interesting is that Glossy is actually evil, while Antiquated is good.
Go on.
But what makes it fascinating is that sure, sure, there's the dulled senses, which is like if the dragon were to gain any amount of pain or pleasure, it may choose to gain one less of that type, or like basically the presence in mind is like commanding versus domineering, which is more about pain for the glossy dragon and pleasure for the antiquated dragon. And what makes it fascinating is that that's also reflected in the abilities. The glossy one has no ability that turns the pain to pleasure, whereas the antiquated one does. It has a paddled tail, where basically you can take the 2 pain from the wing beating, or like just the bite or the claw, like taking damage, and then the DM goes, well, it causes pain, you dumb fuck, so you're gonna take pain.
Mm-hmm.
But what makes it fascinating is that combined with commanding presence, if you have any pleasure, you're taking a penalty to get out of being charmed by it. And with Cuff Storm, you're giving you have disadvantage on saving throws to resist effects that give pleasure, and you gain 1 bonus pleasure when they receive any amount of pleasure. And if you're within that cuff storm, you're going to be probably under the seductive smell, which is giving you an additional 1 pleasure. And then the tail attack is also a legendary action, so it can just straight up go whap, and you go from wanting to beat the shit out of this thing to wanting it to beat the shit out of you in a different way. Because it can also detect you. It automatically succeeds if you have at least 2 pleasure. So if it does a wing beating and then a tail attack on you, and you have that 2 pleasure, you can never hide from this thing.
Well, I can't be shocked by that at all. But on top of that, it actually makes more sense because if we think about it like this, we are looking at a more think of it like this, the cuff storm is essentially just like you mentioned, the breath weapon, obviously, but the padded tail could basically be like a bludgeoning attack. I think it's also kind of interesting that it has the smell aspect of it because it basically is once again putting the novelty of the pain and pleasure mechanic into a new way. It's not saying you're not going to gain it or you're going to lose it. It's basically saying if you have it, he could smell it, which then means you're not only a threat in the form that you might be building up to something, but it also could mean that if you are trying to be sneaky,
good luck with that.
Yeah, it's like, and then you just see him, you see a dragon with the leather cuffs like bound and look at you like, I can smell you're horny. Like that's gonna
basically.
Yeah, that's gonna just like throw a wrench into your plans. And it's a unique mechanic because like smell obviously can be tied to a dragon, no problem. It happens. It's a giant lizard. But to use the concept of the world itself to give it another way of how it can detect it is a fantastic idea. And I think it also ties into the fact that dragons are supposed to have overpowered abilities. So I think in that regard, it's actually kind of it's very useful in not only having a big bad guy that could potentially screw up stuff like rogues' stealth attacks or the mage casting Pass Without Trace or all of that, but it doesn't feel like it's an overpowered ability either. So I think that's a good benefit to have on this thing.
And also with the glossy one, it kind of takes the pain aspect of it and makes it into its own thing. It doesn't go, it's not just a reskin, because sure, there's the binding blast, but you take more damage, you become restrained, and you have there's no pleasure involved. You're held tight. And the domineering presence afterwards is basically you are scared. You can't approach this thing, and a creature making the saving throws is equal to half of their current pain. Now, not only can it give pain with like the tip tail, but you're probably already having a little bit of pain on your journey.
Like you could have stubbed your toe.
Exactly. And it comes with the detect of automatically succeeds on checks to perceive creatures with at least 2 pain. So that's not just horny. It's like, oh, I can sense you're hurting. Let me make it worse.
Yeah.
And of course, there are other dragons as well. We have the Dreadful Dragon. I absolutely have no idea what that does. But it looks like and the
Laticipit.
Oh, thank God. Oh, thank God. Because I have absolutely no idea what that word means.
Latex.
Oh!
It's a latex dragon.
And the hardened latex dragon is the adult version of the latex dragon.
Yeah, the normal is challenge 11 and the hardened is challenge 18. It's the
advanced version. It's not so much the adult version. It's that normal latex is like stretchy and forgiving, whereas hardened latex is particularly useful in ball gags, and they are very not forgiving.
Yeah.
You can tell that I am just like, no, as I hear this for the first time, I'm not only learning a lot, but I'm also seeing how these monsters could work in this realm as well. But I'm also feeling like, my,
Your search results are going to be fascinating after this.
probably. Anyway, let's go. Let's focus. Let's finish up with the leather dragon, and all of its variations. I'm gonna give it once again a 4 out of 5 flumps because, as we all know, there is no such thing as a perfect monster. There are only perfect flumps. But like, look at the artwork on this thing. Like, just
That is really cool artwork.
yeah. Actually, that was what immediately dragged me to this monster. I like the artwork on this because if you were to show this to anyone, not give them the name, just say this is a dragon, they would not immediately assume what the topic is about this dragon at all.
Yeah, yeah, you could see that, and it's like, oh, it's like, okay, it's a black dragon and it's being restrained. Maybe some people are fighting it and they're trying to tie it down to try to kill it.
No,
So yeah, this art is fine.
those restraints are coming from it.
No, yes, I'm saying a normal person looking at this with no
Yeah, Garson
context
probably would.
God damn it.
I did look at this thing and I was like, what, where, okay, it's just a bondage dragon. And now the more I'm knowing about it, I'm like, oh no. No. By the way, Cheddar, I think this goes without saying, we gotta make this the thumbnail for the video on
Oh,
YouTube.
damn straight.
Hey.
Okay, so that's my two creatures. We have about 30 minutes left in the program, and so we're gonna jump it over to Chitter. Chitter, what were your two monsters, and why did you pick them? Let's start with build them up, and we'll knock them down.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I'm
the
s-
first
I'm-
one
I'm
was
so sorry to interrupt, but yeah, I unfortunately won't be able to stick around for Chitter's section because my time is running a bit low.
That's
I'm sorry.
okay. That's okay. We appreciate you stopping by. Obviously, we'll have you back next week when we do the last part of the book and talk about the classes and how the pain and pleasure mechanic play into that. But before you
Yes.
go, real quick, want to say thank you for your time. Thank you for your addition and for your contribution to the show, and also thank you for introducing us to this book. Clearly, clearly I am out of my depth of knowledge on this one. So having someone else to explain this to me has been fantastic. So thank you, Cross, for doing that. We will see you again
course.
next week. You have a good rest of the day.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and yeah, I'll see y'all around. Take care.
yeah,
Take care.
catch
Bye-bye.
you later. All right.
Now, what?
So next,
Yeah, what? So, I remember one of them, that you mentioned. So I'm gonna look that up. Why don't you go ahead and entice the rest of the audience with what's going on?
well, let's see, Garson. Which one do you remember?
I remember a particular one that I think we talked about last week, which was the faceless assassins, kind of.
The no visage stalker. These are okay. I'm just going to come out and say this, that these creatures are why I believe the bestiary is a very good representation of bad ends. And the no visage stalker, you may notice, isn't a humanoid. It's an aberration.
Yeah, I do see that.
So basically, these are what those assassins I mentioned earlier aspire to be. And they're fascinating. Okay, Garson, I'm going to ask you a very specific question, and this isn't to like make fun or whatnot. What type of bad ends do you know?
Chitter, I don't even know what that term means.
Basically, a bad end is essentially a kink where the hero, otherwise known as probably you, because a lot of this is self-insert, because duh, they lose in their story, and that's the appeal of it. However it's framed, they lose. They get defeated. They get wiped out. They get controlled. They get drained. That is the appeal of it. The anticipation towards the defeat.
So what does that have to do with the null visage stalker? Because
I'm getting to that.
Okay.
This character, this monster, is the definition of what I consider to be a perfect bad end monster. For if you just want a character to go out with a fucking bang. Because here's the thing. It's not only going to have the vague existence, so attack rolls against it have disadvantage, and if it's subjected to an effect that it basically has evasion. Not only that, it is unimportant. So if there are 10 or more humanoids within 30 feet of them, they can automatically hide without making a stealth check.
So what you're saying is so basically what you're saying is that these guys are like the ultimate form of basically ninja, to be able to disappear without trace, correct?
Along those lines, yes. They not only can do that, but they have detect thoughts and vicious mockery, which seems a little strange for the vicious mockery until you remembered that then it can remove 1d4 on the saving throws, which comes up later. Then there's dissonant whispers, which is, oh fuck me, and then phantasmal force, which is, oh fuck me. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Is, sure, it has the stereotypical claw attack and whatever, but there's a reason why it's challenge 7. And it's the empty out. This is essentially what I believe the book could get as close to a level drain as possible. Without, actually doing a level drain, because that's terrible to do in a game about levels. Basically, level drain is as simple as it sounds. As you lose more and more, you lose your levels until you have that climax where either you get drained, you take on a new form of class that is submissive and whatnot, or you just become bound to the thing in particular. There's a reason why I'm bringing that all up. Because empty out is basically going for the I'm going to completely wipe you out. Because first, you must succeed on a DC 15 intelligence saving throw or become charmed. While charmed, you are incapacitated and have a speed of 0. So already, you're kind of fucked.
Oh, well, put it mildly, why don't you?
But here's the thing. That's what you hope it all comes to. Like, you hope that that's the worst of it. Because you can definitely try at the end of your turn to repeat the saving throw. However, if you fail that saving throw while incapacitated from this effect, you become paralyzed.
I do see that there, actually. And it looks like you also can't move, like you mentioned. And also looks like, yeah, so it can't use any magic. You can't activate magic items. You can't understand the language. You're pretty much just trapped at that point.
Oh, that part is if you fail it a third time. Because, sure, you're no longer paralyzed. Like you could become no longer paralyzed if you fail it 3 times. But you can't cast spells, you can't activate magic items, you can't understand language or communicate in an intelligible way, and your intelligence, wisdom, and charisma all become 1. And while this effect persists, the creature is considered charmed by all creatures it perceives.
Oh yeah. And not only that, it looks like it could last for about. Jeez, this thing can last for about a month unless it's like Greater Restoration, Heal, or Wish. And those were all like high level spells. So finding that
Yeah.
around levels challenge rating 7 is not impossible, but it would definitely be a big taxing on resources. So I do like that. So my question to you is this. Would you say, when you say this is the best end for the big bad, are you saying like the big bad guy is lost and then they become this creature? You're saying that they could just essentially control yourself, control your mind, and then have like basically influence your character in ways that normally wouldn't go, correct?
Basically, yes. And the thing is that yes, your intelligence, wisdom, and charisma scores become 1. Absolutely. But that doesn't. But you're charmed by all creatures it perceives. And this is a chaotic evil entity. So either it is going to wipe you the fuck out, or there's someone using it.
Damn. Okay, I can now. Yeah, no, that definitely sounds like it'd be a really fun bad guy to fight, especially if you run into like 2 of these things like as mint bosses, and the big bad guy sends them off to you. It basically symbolizes that okay, they're not only a legitimate threat, but you honestly don't really prepare to fight something like this at all, because when it comes to a lot of enemies in D&D don't have the ability to charm the player characters. The player characters have a lot of options to charm the monsters. Obviously, we have charm person, charm monster, bards. So typically we don't think of having a monster that has the same ability on us because we know how powerful the charm status effect is. Once you're charmed, it's one of those status effects how do I put this? Once you're charmed, it's always feels like you have to invest at least a high level spell slot to get out of it. I like that. I like that. It's a balancing act. But to have an entire monster that's only designed is to charm you, even if it's in an indirect form, I think that's a scary thought. And not only that, it's a very good thought too, if you know how to balance it properly.
Yeah. And what makes it fascinating is kind of how I imagine it leaving you. And I could imagine this thing leaving you in one of those gimp suits, just like zipper torn off kind of situations where you can't speak, you can't, you're charmed by everyone near around you, and you are basically this like arms down following this person who your mind is now clinging to for this sense of purpose and meaning because your mind has been so blanked.
So zeroed out basically. But it
Yeah.
looks like it's also one of those monsters where it only has like, it doesn't have one trick. It's not a one trick like, it's not a one trick character obviously, but
it goes up to that one trick where the detect thoughts is basically getting you alone, dissonant whispers is forcing you to flee, phantasmal force is scaring you, vicious mockery reduces that saving throw. That's so important.
Yep, and then it basically makes you into nothing at this point because it controls your it basically is like it puts you to 0 basically, which is never a good thing, especially when you have very little way of getting out of it. Hopefully, like you do.
Hopefully you have a backup character, because this is the epitome of what, as I said, a bad end. Because if your character falls to that, they are under that effect for 30 days and charmed by everyone around them unconditionally.
And most likely they're probably gonna be dead by then.
Unless they are taken care of by, well, it sure as shit ain't gonna be the party if it managed to be alone that long.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I gotta admit, I do like this. I wish we had some artwork of this creature.
All you can really imagine is just like a humanoid form of latex
So a gimp suit then, basically.
without the adornment. Yes.
Yes, it's not a true gimp suit without the endorsement. All right. So, anything else you want to add about the Null Visage Stalker for this campaign setting?
Honestly, I just find it so fascinating because there's so many times in D&D where aberrations are just treated as either jokes, like let's call a spade a spade. We love the flump, but it's an aberration that's treated as a joke.
Yeah, that's true.
Or aberrations are seen as these gods that we cannot perceive, like the great old ones and whatnot. There's really no in between. This is an aberration that you could run into. You could run into anywhere. It's not unreasonable for a stalker to be there. It's not unreasonable for level 7 is not god slayers. They're well known, but they're not god slayers.
Yeah, they're the equivalent of just we had a big adventure, we came back to here. They're about citywide hero status. So yeah, I do not think they would be prepared for something like this, especially when you realize that this thing could easily stalk your team throughout the entirety of a city and have it be like a threat in the background, and then come in at night and inflict that empty out ability on you when you're least expecting it. And that's a dangerous combination for any DM to have. Cheddar, you still there? Oh, well, I think Cheddar may disconnect for a second. 1 second, folks. All right. But yeah, so that's my take on it. Personally, I think if we look at it more like as a taking the kink aspiration out of it, I think the main thing that you can use this for is just to have like a super threat that's basically stalking your opponents and your team as they're going through. And I think that's a good way to use it. But that empty out ability is definitely really powerful. And I would say, like, damn, just all the negative statuses that can come from that thing. I don't know if there's a lot of people who could pass a DC 15 intelligence saving throw. I think it's possible. But if you're not like a wizard class, if you're definitely like a barbarian, you probably dumped it. Intelligence is one of those stats that a lot of people would probably dump. Just because wisdom. Yeah. Oh, there you are.
Hi there. I apparently had to fight one of them off as my electricity flickered.
Well, I was just filling up the space while you were gone. I was just saying, like, this comes across as an enemy that is a threat, unseen threat, obviously because of the name, but the amount of status conditions it can inflict is just devastating. And I think it actually, if you were to have this as a DM enemy, I would actually have it where it would have already inflicted empty out on one of the party members the night before, and then have them try to figure out what's going on, because its unimportant ability allows it to basically remain like a super stalker. And if you're in a big city and you don't know what caused something like this, you would have to not only figure it out, discover a way to track it down, find it, and then you could use it to reverse the effects. That would be a full campaign in of itself. Even if
so you're either doing that to an NPC or you're having a very in-depth conversation with the party member.
Exactly. And I think both of those outcomes are not only a lot of fun, they can cause a lot of really funny moments too. And you know me, if it's a funny moment in a D&D campaign, I'm going to love it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so with that being said, what do you give it on our flumpometer?
4.
Okay. One day we're going to do a bad flumpometer review and we'll actually get to use those other numbers, but today is not that day. Chitter, what was the other monster that drew you out in the book?
This one again is leaning towards the bad end. And it's called an amber giant. It's at the very start of the beast year.
It should. It begins with A.
Yeah, it should. But this kind of sets the stage, but it's very, very fascinating because an amber giant is neutral. And you're probably looking at it going, okay, neutral. That's not terrible. Okay, keen smell, yada yada, innate spellcasting, charm person, entangle, snare. I mean, nothing out of the ordinary for, Bundhiem or anything. And then
Yeah,
Claw.
yeah. I was actually realizing this. There wasn't a whole lot that was sticking out with this thing when it came to Bundheim. I thought it was just like a
Oh,
big, seemed like a big
oh,
giant.
trust me. It
I
makes
do and I don't.
it makes the Ero Squid look tame in some ways.
Oh no.
And the hint in its actions is hurl honey. Because you're like, wait a minute. What kind of honey are they talking about? Well, it's
Oh
they
no.
they base
Oh no. I know exactly where
they,
this
cu-
is going.
they cultivate it through gardens with fruits and vegetables, and that's nice and all, but they're not good. They're neutral. And they're very fond of capturing people to create their favorite crop, gilded treacle. And now you might be thinking, well, okay, what do they do with the people? Do they just like put them to work or like what's going on here? No, no. They wrap their victims in large blades of grass dipped sap, leaving them mummified and hung on racks. To these cocooned individuals, they feed honey cultivated from bees that sap on flowers.
Bees, my
Spe-
god.
Over time, this diet causes their torsos to swell as their body processes that honey into the gilded treacle. The extraction process can either be lethal or excruciating, and I like to think that they put excruciating bracket affectionate bracket. Because for the former, they just simply squeeze the person until they pop. But the latter, you make them arrive,
So
and that treacle is expelled with that arrival because it has replaced most bodily fluids. And, of course, the unfortunate reality is the victim is left capable of producing more afterwards, and so they get returned to the rack to repeat the process indefinitely.
folks, I'm gonna paint a picture for you right now, and I want you to hear exactly how this entire conversation has made me feel. I shut my eyes about 2 minutes into that explanation. I have not opened my eyes since the explanation began. I am doing that because because the simple fact is that I have that image burned into my head now of an orc who begot this and has somehow had every bodily fluid of his body replaced with honey. And the only thing I can think of right now is the fact that this guy is now jizzing honey from now until the end of time. And I don't know the amount how far I can get away with explaining this. My brain has now literally been soaked into that thought, and it is just trying desperately to not have that thought, as there is no way I'm ever going to go back to a normal place after that. Please go on, Shitter. Don't you laugh. You started this. You're explaining.
See, here's the thing. Garson's response is what a normal person would respond to that with, oh my god, that's horrifying. To someone like myself who has indulged in a few things, including several role plays that I will not get into detail because Daddy Twitch will lose his mind.
I don't know how we're gonna put this video on YouTube at this point.
I'm looking at this going, I may want to go see one of them. Because there are certain kinks that this takes a very Garson, you're going to hate that I'm going to say it this way.
Well, why? I'm taking all the hit. I'm taking all the risk at this point.
The Amber Giants take a very vegan approach to some kinks.
What does that mean? At this point, I'm like, don't even guess. Just ask. You're not gonna get it. You can't get it. You can't understand where this is going. Go ahead.
This is the nature equivalent of a milking and basically cow transformation kinks.
Moo indeed.
And yes, that is exactly what it sounds like. I have seen things. And I love that it brings it up in a very nature way, because not only are you mummified and held, but your body is also slightly transformed to where you are providing sustenance to these giants. But not because you're doing a good job cooking or anything. It's because you're force-fed and the diet slowly converts you into a food source. And you want to produce more as you're brought to a rival each time you give it.
So, let me ask you a question then.
Yeah, how's your brain?
Oh, it's gone. It's gone at this point. It flew out. The Ero Squid damaged it, and the cuffs thing kind of ruined it. Folks, for those of you who are probably asking yourself, "Oh, that's weird that we're having a podcast and one of the hosts knows nothing about this." I think that's a good thing, because let me explain it like this: if I knew everything that we were building up to at this point, this would not be entertaining. You are getting my live reactions right now to hearing about the giant that will turn you into a cow so that you may excrete honey out of your nipples and or dick. And then I'm like, what could I add to that, really? But I think it's actually kind of but let's put that all aside. Let's look at what the Amber Giant does as itself. It smells, which is good. It has a good clean smell. It actually does know some magic. Charm Person, Entangle, and Snare. So it feels like its whole kit, just for Cat Wills, seems to be just building up to that.
Basically, it's getting you to the honey, where it's basically just going to hold you and then feed you it. Because the thing that turns you isn't the giant itself, it's the honey. So you could basically be walking into a wide field of flowers or a wide field of people hung up on trees, and you could take a small taste and it wouldn't affect you, and you'd be like, this is really sweet, this is really nice. And then you slowly start to see more people, you slowly start to see more flowers. Something isn't right, but it's too late. You've already eaten too much, and now you're starting to produce the honey, which draws the attention.
Can't argue with that. But I will admit that this is definitely a monster I was not expecting, and Okay, is this thing like a living giant, or is it like a construct? Because
It's an actual. These are actual giants. And do you know what this? Do you know what the fun part about this is?
what's that?
Look at their stat block. They are not evil. This is a neutral lifestyle.
Well, here at Farmer Bumper's Crops of Plenty, we grow the finest honey hives that we can. First, we take a party of adventurers who are too stupid to realize that the challenge rating was not up to their level, and then we bring them in for some honey, and then they eat the honey. If they don't eat the honey, we offer them a cookie. It's got the honey in it. We're very good at our job. As we sit there and wait, the honey becomes more powerful.
And also, here's the terrifying part. Again, they're neutral, meaning that there are people in Bundhiem who probably agreed to it wanting it.
Jesus. That's not a scary thought, but definitely a thought.
And now you're just trying to remember the one who said that sounds like it would be interesting / fascinating / imagine a character getting free from that. Their body produces it. It doesn't, there's no save to stop it. Your body just produces that from now on.
I don't know what to say. I don't, because at this point, look, I gotta be honest. My depth of knowledge was already kind of limited when it came to this subject matter, and
Hi, Mantis. You're walking in on something.
Pretty much. So like my knowledge was already limited. I make no qualms about me not knowing this. I freely admit that. And I think that's a good way to have someone who doesn't know the topic to have another conversation. But let me just say it like this, and I did hear you, Mantis. We're recording, so I didn't want to like put it on the video. Point is, here's what's going on. I don't think there is an enemy I could potentially have any kind of contact with that would scare me more than this thing, bar none. Because it's not a bad. It's like an ogre or a troll. It's not bad, but it's clearly doing something that you are just not prepared for.
Yeah, and the thing is if I were someone who would be running this campaign, like a campaign involving this, here's the thing, and this is where it might break your brain a little bit more. I wouldn't paint them as evil. I would introduce the concept by having the party run into an NPC eager to do it. Actively on their way. Because that paints the image of if someone's there that doesn't want to be there, that's a problem. It's not the norm.
I'm just sorry. My brain is just legitimately like thinking right now. I'm sorry. I'm just going back to the honey jizz again, and I'm just thinking to myself, oh no.
And just think, your body has basically that as in most of its fluids, not just down there, but in your body. Meaning that you would want to, shall we say, keep consuming. Meaning that, self-felation may be in your future, should you leave. And a lot of it.
Wow. Okay. So, I think we definitely gone over the Amber Giant. Chitter, why don't you go ahead and give us your flumpometer rating while I take a hard look at this Bible that's currently right next to me. While Chater gives your rating, I'm gonna pull out this copy of the King James Bible and just read a Bible verse and see if that cleanses my soul. Probably not at this point.
I'll give it 4.9.
4.9 out of 5. Okay, as we all know, there are no such thing as perfect fives. That belongs only to the flump. Okay. All right, so we've gotten over our characters. We all gotten over some interesting things from Bundhiem. I'm going to give a few last words, and then I think we're going to end it after that. Chitter, you're more than welcome to give yours as well.
Absolutely, go right ahead.
So I know we didn't really go too much into the pain and pleasure mechanic. I think we're going to be going over that more next week, but I've looked at 2 weeks of Bundhiem. Here is something I can safely say that I've learned from this book. And that is, if you want to run a campaign that is NC-17, this definitely not only helps you do that, but I think one of the main benefits that the book has is that it's not trying to shy away from all types. It's not, because I think a lot of people don't realize this, that when we talk about kink as a descriptive noun, we typically only like to look at the standard stuff. Like people would say, my kink is big boobs, my kink is a big butt, my kink is hand jobs, I guess. Wow, this is definitely going to get demonetized. But my point is that
I love how that's the thing that will get us demonetized, and not what I just spent the past 20 minutes talking about.
Fair enough, but my point is that it's not trying to shy away from these topics. It's not because, like you said, the Amber Giant, the Ero Squid, the Leather Dragon, they all are fringe kinks by like the majority of people in the Western world, but they're not necessarily reflecting negative stereotypes of it. They're reflecting positive stereotypes, which again maybe some people would see as a bad thing. I know stereotypes are a decisive topic for some people, but I think it's a good thing. I think if you really think about it, enemies like the Ero Squid and the Amber Giant, they represent giant challenges, but they also play a good part in explaining the positive sides of the kinks that they represent. I mean, you said it yourself with the Ero Squid and the Vor stuff. Vor doesn't have to be you being eaten. It can be a safety zone. And oh my god, I'm not going to escape the clips on this one. But like
here's the thing.
Mhm.
I'm going to come out and say this where I myself have done sessions of Vor in mental spaces where I've needed that comfort. I've needed that feeling of enclosing space that's comforting. And to some people, that might be like, what the fuck are you talking about? But to someone who's in the middle of it, no pun intended, it's very comforting. And then, of course, there's the other end where you just want to feel that adrenaline rush. You want to go into the details, the nitty gritty, gory details. And the Ero Squid captures that other side too. And it's just, that alone is so fascinating because Vor is such a negatively viewed king. But to see it explored earnestly, I respect the book for doing that.
As someone who doesn't know the ins and outs of that particular kink, I don't feel qualified, nor do I feel I would say knowledgeable enough to give my if it covered it well or not. So I'm going to rely on you for that one. But let's just say this. I don't think there is a bad representation in this book. I think the book is doing what it can with delicate subject matters, and it's building a world around that, and it is treating each one as if it were a legitimate, respectable thing, which I don't think a lot of people would do. We typically live in an age where a lot of the time we look at differences, we look at, subcultures of people, individuals, everything like that. They're represented negatively by popular media, by popular writing, by popular everything. And I don't think that's a good thing. I think with books like Kinks and Cantrips, we're looking at D&D through an adult set of eyes, but we're treating it with the respect the adult set of eyes has. And I don't know if there's been a book like this ever in all of Dungeons and Dragons. What I do know is that other tabletop RPGs, they've done this, like Cyberpunk 2077. For all, like, to give you an example of this, Cyberpunk 2023, when it came out, it gave the first option to be a transgendered roleplay character and built characters around that. And obviously it wasn't like they haven't done that before in the past with other RPG sets. I think it's like they respected it enough to treat it as if, hey, look, the world's gone to shit anyway, who cares? And treat it with that amount of respect. And I think that's what Kinks and Cantrips is trying to do. It's trying to showcase the world to these new ideas, these new ways of experiencing pleasure, and it's doing a good job at it.
And the thing is that I think the other side of the coin is equally important. Where not only are they giving the kinks the respect, they're also giving the world the respect it deserves. It's not saying that everyone is a horn dog and the world's gone to shit. They're actively saying, like, hey, there are bad ways of doing this, but there's also good ways. And the people of Bundhiem have built a world around those good ways and not just built a world, but built a world that is actively flourishing with life. It's not a world going to shit. It's not a world where they've lost their minds. It's a world where that stuff is just freely accepted and it just happens.
I think that's the best way to have it. I think we're building a world that's mature. We're talking about mature subject matter, but we are not putting it in a situation where it's going to be a bad watch. I think that's a good thing. Especially if we look at everything we talked about today. The leather dragon, the amber giant, the angel, the edging angel, all of that stuff. Like, I know nothing. I've said that multiple times this episode. I know none of this stuff. I don't pretend to know this. What I do know, and this is what I personally pick up on, is that even if I were looking at this from a cursory outsider perspective, I wouldn't feel like this would be something people would need to be ashamed about. I feel like this is something that people could talk about in a mature setting, and I feel like I can respect it, or at least I can comprehend it to the point where I can understand. I think opening a dialogue like that is something that, while maybe not responsible for tabletop RPGs, it's a space that can have that kind of benefit. So I think it's a good thing.
And leading into next week, there's actually a background that you yourself would be a perfect fit for. And it's called the Curious Explorer, where basically your character is new to Bundhiem and all of these kinks. And you can't choose a subclass in this book for a while. And you basically have to go around for as long as you feel comfortable, exploring the world, exploring different things, and finding more about yourself. And then when you eventually find the thing that makes you you in this world, then you spend a segmented amount of downtime transitioning your traditional subclass to your new subclass.
And I think that's a good segue for the end of the episode. We're going to be talking more about that next week when we do our third and final episode on Kinks and Cantrips. And by that, we are going to be looking at the last part of any RPG itself, what the players are going to be playing. We're going to be looking deeper into the pain and pleasure side of the book, some of the mechanics, how it can be used for your players, as opposed to what can be used for your enemies. And then, on top of that, we're going to be diving into some of the subclasses, and I'm probably going to be making much knowledge achieved. That's what we like to do here. I'll be honest, I'm probably going to go on the surface level of some of the classes, because I'm not going to know anything, but we'll go over the backgrounds, the subject matter, all of that when we tackle that next week. As for this week, I think we've
done
think-
a fair bit.
I think so too, and I think this is going to be a good spot to end it. All right, folks. Once again, I have to say that if you're watching this video, like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. We know
'Cause
that.
the algorithm sure shit ain't gonna help us this week.
Oh, did I tell you what the fucking algorithm did last week?
No.
Okay, so get this. I'm editing the video, and I get this free, like, royalty-free music from artly.com. It's supposed to be allowed to be used by creators to put it in. I find a nice little 10 seconds thing for outro music for us. And I put it in over our thumbnail. And we get fucking copyright struck on the 10 seconds. It was 10 goddamn seconds of this. And I fucking can't believe that. And because of that, we lost valuable ground. Because as we all know, if you get copyright, the algorithm will immediately put it to the bottom of the barrel. Because I don't want to spread that shit. 10 seconds at the end. I was just trying to make it look a little bit more professional. That made me kind of bad. But I will say it was nice that everyone rallied together to at least make it a lot more enjoyable. And I'm glad that we got more people to like the video. So, once again, if you are watching this on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe. We know that this is asking a lot, but we also know that we are trying to build a community here. We're releasing more D&D content, including, we're going to be tackling a lot more stuff coming up in the coming weeks. I just want to know that we're also going to be working on making some more edge-formative shorts and everything that'll be going up on the channel later, so that you can use us as a animated spell book, even though there is an animated spell book, but I like that guy, so I want to throw him a quick shout out. Link in the description for Kinks and Cantrips once again. We once again want to thank our guests Cross and Chitter for showing up, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for your support. We love you all. We will be back this time next week.
Catch y'all later. It's been a lot of fun talking about this book and diving into something that maybe you'd want to check out. Maybe you'd want to run. Maybe I want to put Garson through an Amber Giant. I mean, what?
I'm gonna pretend I heard that, and I will talk later about that with you. Anyway, okay. Well, folks, catch you on the flip side. Bye-bye.